Hello and welcome back to another episode of Extraordinary with me, James Wallace. And in this very powerful and insightful episode, I'm rejoined by two old friends of mine who featured on episode 3, It's Bonded by Babies. So what is it that Cali has?
Cali has autism and global developmental delay. And they say they're wired differently, but what does differently mean? You don't know the world that they live in. I'd love to see it. I'd love to go there. It's almost like I'm getting upset now. Like a waste. She's so perfect. Why does she have to be like that? Why her? Why us? Why do we have to suffer with such challenges? What is our purpose for Bonded by Babies? Yes, it was a bit of fun. Now it's a bit like there's a purpose to this. My parents have gone away for 2 weeks. They're on a cruise. Am I going to go on a cruise with my husband, or is my baby girl always going to come with us? With a child with autism, you never know what you're going to get that day, that hour, that night. And knowing that autism means that her social side will be hugely affected breaks and shatters my whole soul. 2 pediatricians have diagnosed Cali. It's just by their opinion. There's no blood test, there's no x-ray, there's nothing. It's purely opinion. Sophie wanted me to sleep train Cali. And I said to my mother-in-law, I do not feel comfortable sleep training a baby that I believe is in pain. I ran upstairs to the doctor and I literally threw myself on the floor. I said, she's got it. He said, just sit down and just calm yourself and we're going to work on her and we're going to work on her forever and ever. And that's when I knew.
Before we begin the show, please don't forget that this podcast is not monetized or sponsored in any way, which is why I've signed up to buymeacoffee.com, which is a platform that allows creators like me to raise a bit of funds towards the ongoing cost and maintenance of the podcast. I've set my price at just £3, so it really is the price of a coffee. If you did want to contribute, I will leave the link in my show notes, and of course it's in my link tree, which is across all of my socials. As always, if you enjoy this podcast, please don't forget to leave a rating or a review if you enjoyed it. You can do that on Apple or Spotify, or indeed if you're watching this on YouTube, you can like and subscribe as well, and leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. It's always beneficial for me to know how I can improve. With that being said, and without any further ado, enjoy the show. So welcome back, the duo that is Bonded by Babies. How have you been?
We've been good. We've been super busy. I mean, you're currently knee-deep in the HCP saga. So we talk about that a lot. I've been really busy with my sleep consultancy and we're just sort of muddling through life at the moment, aren't we? It's just one big juggle. It's trying to find time for everything.
I mean, if social media is anything to go by, it means like Bonded by Babies is still a thing. I mean, we last spoke on this podcast, I don't know, I think you were like episode 3 or something. It was like super early on.
Because I was very emotional. That was the week you found out you were pregnant with. I was pregnant and I didn't know. Yeah. So that's why I was even super more emotional, but we'll see how we go today.
Yeah, because I think we had tears, didn't we?
We had tears. We had tears at the end when we had to do a letter to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Such a powerful tool. And thank you for that, because I use that when I do my therapy work with my clients.
Oh,
and
love
a lot
that.
of people won't do it.
No.
It's something that takes a lot of time for them to trust you first and then open up. So yes,
totally.
Thank you for that tool. I use it a lot.
Good, my pleasure. So like I was saying, a lot has happened. You're both now mums of 2. I think, Talya, you actually already had story at the time.
Yeah.
Sophie, you didn't. You've now got another one. And I find it difficult to manage my life, and I'm one person. So like I'm always in awe of like the busy mums who have careers as well. It's just like, is life just always on and very, very hectic?
Yeah. Starts at 5:30, ends about 9 o'clock on the sofa, and then we pass out about 10:30 at night, and then we start again.
Someone explained it to me as you're never not worrying. Like the minute that you have a child, like it's just all consuming. You're constantly worrying about if they've slept enough, ate enough, happy enough, like all of the above.
My mum always used to say, you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. And as a child, I used to be like, oh my God, you're so dramatic. Just be happy. We're all cool. But it's so true. It's so true. Like if one of them is really happy and thriving, but the other one's struggling or not settling in nursery or not eating well, it doesn't matter what it is, how big or small. If they're not okay, you're not okay.
I like that. I like the way that that's been framed. And very true. I can see that. I can see it in my own family. I can see it in other people's families. It all makes sense. So we've come on today to talk about something very specific in particular, and I'm sure it's going to be extremely difficult and quite heavy for you, obviously, but for me and also anyone else listening. So I just want to thank you in advance for having the bravery and kind of the balls to do this, because I don't think it's something that lots of people can do. But I also know that it's going to be extremely beneficial and helpful to so many people. And you already are. I kind of follow you. I feel like I should be in like your top 10% fans.
Yeah.
I feel like I am anyway.
I know. Like we're one of your top 10% fans back.
You are. You are. We're bigging each other up. We're each other's cheerleaders. And I see the reaction the content gets, and it's extremely powerful. So you deserve to be congratulated for that. But let's talk about you as a duo, but also Sophie, your firstborn, Cali, and her journey. So why don't you explain to everyone what that's been like?
I think we need to start by saying that whatever Cali's story and journey is does not mean that it will be anyone else's journey. So if anyone is listening, firstly, thank you. And secondly, please don't take anything that we're saying as a concern for your own child. It's Cali's journey, it's Cali's story, and any flags that she had, which we obviously will talk about, were consistent flags. It's not just the odd thing for you to think, oh, well, then my child must have it. So I really need to put that out there.
So so can you just give everyone an update on kind of where we're at today? And then I think it would be useful for everyone to look back. So what is it that Cali has?
You're saying Cali has autism and she has global developmental delay, which is when developmentally the milestones, socially, language-wise, physically that she should be hitting, she's not. So she's currently in the age bracket of, what would you say, like 18 months to 36? 18 months to 36. She's turning 4 in 2 weeks, which is really difficult for me because I have an 18-month-old who is hitting all the milestones that he should be. Thankfully, please God. But yeah, so that's difficult, that I feel that even some things that Marley, my son, says or does, or even expressions or tone of voice, he's already passed that milestone than her. Cali was also always very monotone. We used to laugh about it. If she was on the swing, she would say "wee," and like Marley will be like "wee" because he's so excited, but she just cannot express her emotions, even if she felt great doing it. So yeah. Well, that's all.
And is that something that's linear? So if at 4 years old she's behaving or expressing or presenting as a 18-month-year-old, does that mean when she's 8 it will be like a 4-year-old?
No. We hope that with the right interventions, especially socially, please God, one day she will catch up and be within her correct age bracket. That's not to say that she definitely will be, but unfortunately, with autism, especially with girls, they just learn to mask so many of their natural feelings and thought processes. So she may learn not to speak in a monotone voice and speak in an emotive way. And she already does, like, Mummy, Auntie Talya. Like, she shows excitement because she feels it, but that's learned behavior. She probably naturally would be slightly more
subdued.
Yeah, no, not subdued, because she's a very excitable, happy little girl. It's just they learn characteristics that we show them and they create that level of emotion because it's just more learned. And I think as she gets older, she'll get better at it. That doesn't mean that her autism is less.
And am I right in thinking, because I think everyone, or myself included, and I've had to do sort of a lot of, self-education, not just in prep for this, but, speaking to you, Sophie and Talya, over the years, like just learning about it. And I think this is why podcasts like this are so important, because I don't think enough people know that much about autism. But I think the one thing that lots of people do know is that it is a spectrum. But am I right in thinking at this stage of Callie's life, there are so many known unknowns? Like you don't know kind of the scale, the severity, or not.
Kills me every day. That's what I was going to say. That's the hardest part of it. Even from when Callie was a baby and the concern started, I always used to say to Sophie, if you had a crystal ball and you could see that when she's 7 or she's 10 or she's 15, she's living a completely normal, independent, happy life, and she does what she wants, gets married, has children, you'll sleep better at night knowing that, yes, these years are so challenging and so emotionally difficult to accept. But even now, if you had a crystal ball, you would be living a very different life to how the unknown is the worst fear in the world. And that's why so many people have phobias and fears, because you're out of control. The whole thing is out of control. The spectrum is so huge that not one autistic person is the same as the other. So I get lots of comments like, she's fine. Look at her. She just said, Mummy. Oh my God, she just said my name. And I'm like, okay. But your 4-year-old has just said to me, hi, what are we having for dinner? My child couldn't say that. So, but then you could look at another child who stims a lot and is very physical with their autism. So everything is very flappy, which Callie isn't a stimmer as such. She is with her eyes, but people wouldn't really notice that unless they knew. So they could look more severe, but can speak fluently and can express themselves. Or can thrive in a mainstream school, but visually they look very, very different. So
and I guess emotionally is even harder because they're not physical presentations, are they? Like you never know what's going on inside someone's head.
Not a clue. And they say they're wired differently, but what? What does differently mean? What's wired differently? That's what I find actually the saddest part of it, is that you don't know the world that they live in. I'd love to see it. I'd love to go there. Is she happy? Is she hurting? We look at her now, and yes, she has moments. And I think the whole of Bonded by Babies know about Callie's moments because I like to share them.
Mm-hmm.
But she's a happy child. She's not crying all the time. She's very much in her own world. She knows what she likes. She knows what she dislikes. And when she's in her own interests, she's very happy. She's very content. And it's about learning her. And Josh, my husband, our families, we know Callie, but other people don't. And that's what's difficult because, for example, we went to Costa Coffee yesterday. She chose a biscuit that she wanted. Screaming, everyone heard her, ice cream biscuit. Everyone saw that, oh, look at her, she's so sweet. She then sees the cakes, I'm paying for the biscuit. She then has a meltdown on the floor where people's eyebrows are raising and they're staring at me because she doesn't want the biscuit anymore, she wants the cake. And overall, she looks like a spoiled brat because she can't say, Mummy, I've made a mistake. Please, I don't want that. I really want the cake instead. It's no biscuit. So there's me. What do you want, Callie? But because I know her, I knew she wanted the cake. But no one around me in public knows. She hasn't got a sign on her head. She hasn't got anything that she's wearing because I don't wish her to wear a lanyard all the time. Not that everyone would know what a lanyard is anyway. So that's what's difficult. It's not like a physical disability where someone's in a wheelchair or someone's got a walking stick. Yeah, I guess if you see a child in a wheelchair and they're kicking and screaming and thrashing about, you think, there's something not right. That is horrific. Yeah, but when there's someone that's walking and choosing her own biscuit and is verbally saying no, and then having a kick-off, you think, wow, she's spoiled. And that's where I really am trying to spread and share awareness that do not judge a child without knowing the situation. There may be some children that are spoiled, okay, and that the parents may not be doing what they need to do, but people need to stop judging and giving you the looks because it just makes me feel 10 times worse with all the looks. So yeah, going back to your question, it's such an unknown, huge spectrum that everyone is totally different with. So I have no words to even explain how I feel, what's she going to be like? The answer is I don't know.
And would you say that is the overriding sort of emotion? Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it bitterness? Like, I'm trying to sort of like understand kind of where your head is at, because obviously you must have 1,000,001 things going on, and we'll come back to the diagnosis and that journey, because I think that in its own right is probably horrific. But now that you've got a diagnosis, there are plans in place. You know, to Talya's point earlier, like, she's a happy girl. Like, we see her on social media. She's extremely friendly. She's sociable. Like, she likes playing with things. Like, does that give you some sort of comfort?
No, it's painful every day.
Which bit?
Every second. So you might see her, that one snippet on Instagram that I put that she's happy, and then something can absolutely trigger her off and we don't know what it is.
Because you can't communicate.
Because she can't communicate. And so she's classed, when it comes to the verbal thing, people say she's verbal. She just said my name. She's speaking. This is brilliant. I can't believe she's using her words. As Talya said before, everything she's learned is from watching TV or listening to us. So it's all learned. And I know that's how children develop conversation. You've worked very hard, like all the therapies and the constant, Cali, yes, please, mummy, or what would you like, the pink or the blue? Like, tell mummy, like the constant conversations, teaching her how to converse appropriately. I mean, what we went to this talk the other night with these two professors that have spent the last 30 years researching autism. And this one thing he said to me has changed the way I think, the way I look at her and the world that our family lives in with her around. He said, neurodivergent people, so not just people with autism, but any neurodivergency, the neurons in their brain literally fire differently to how neurotypical people's brains fire. And he said, instead of trying to unpick the neurons and rewire their brains to adapt them to live within our society, we need to adapt our society to allow them to live amongst us. Like, stop trying to change their mold and change who we are and what we do to allow them to be with us. And that just like really brought home to me how important what Sophie does is on Instagram, sharing the difficult parts of raising a child with a disability, because that is what it is. But also just accepting her for what she is, because she's just beautiful and amazing and so caring and so happy and wonderful. And it is really sad. It's like, it's sad because it's almost like I'm getting upset now. Like a waste. She's so perfect. And people might find that really negative for me to say, but she's got such a wonderful foundation, such an amazing support network. Why does she have to be like that? Why does she get chosen to be that person? Well, because we've got a bit of a following for me to share awareness. That the questions I have in my head all the time is, why her? Why us? Why do we have to suffer with such challenges? No one understands, really, truly. I mean, even we went for dinner, didn't we, a few weeks ago, and Auntie Talya sees Cali all the time. We have never experienced her in such a way in a frigging restaurant. I mean, she could have done it at home. Everyone saw what she was like, and there was nothing to control her. And what upsets me is, what if she does that at school or at nursery or somewhere where I'm not there? And even, I mean, I was there and I still couldn't control it. It couldn't control. She couldn't. It's so sad. But going back, sorry for my emotional second, and I'm sure there'll be more. Going back to what Talya said about the talk, I watched the Paddy McGuinness and Christine McGuinness documentary. I don't know if you've seen it, but they've got.
I've not, but I have heard about it.
It was so inspiring, and I would say I was very much like Paddy in it, being really in denial. This was further back. And, you know, thinking when we go to see a pediatrician, she's going to say she's fine, she's just a bit delayed. And then Josh, my husband, for people that don't know, was very much like Christine. She has got autism, she has got global delay, let's just embrace it, let's go with it. And then Paddy went to get some therapy with Mr. Autism of the whole of, I think it was of London or something. And what stuck by me was he said, back in the day, when people said, I'm gay, people's response was, oh God, all negative, as we know. It was not an understanding thing. It was an accepting thing. What do you mean you've got a boyfriend? You're a man, blah, 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 blah. This is the same with autism at the moment. And this he said, what we want to change. Autism. Oh yeah, my daughter's got autism. Oh, okay. Hello. No, you don't need to hello her. You can speak to her normally. She's no different. Just as a gay person is no different. It's the way they feel. But now homosexuality is a lot more, and I know it still goes on and on, but it's a lot more accepting. And people, so if you say, oh, I'm out with my boyfriend, you'll be like, oh, cool, amazing. Where are you going? Not, oh, and stop conversation. And that's how he wants the world to change with autism. Yeah, my daughter Cali, yeah, she's got autism. Oh, brilliant, amazing. Okay, what does she like? Let's go. Not, oh, let's change the way our whole thought process is because I've just thrown something at you that's not your familiarity. It's not your normal, if that makes sense. So it's just, was I destined to set up this account to help so many people? For me now, oh my God, I'd never, anything. I think that all the time now. Why? What is our purpose for Bonded by Babies? Yes, it was a bit of fun, and we always said it'd be really lighthearted and fun, and now it's a bit like, there's a purpose to this. And we help so many people. Talya gives therapy for all her sleep. I give therapy to people that are going through how I'm going. And I give therapy to myself, more importantly.
Yeah, that is most important. I mean, it's interesting how you characterized kind of autism with kind of one of those things that we haven't really progressed on. I don't know what the reason is. Maybe it's not talked about enough. Maybe it's the media, maybe it's representation, general inclusivity and diversity isn't there. And I think, Talya, you made a really good point. I don't think we as a society are built to accommodate or adapt to neurodiversity. I mean, I remember it wasn't that long ago where, when we were at school, and if someone had dyslexia or ADHD, they were seen as like the naughty kids or like less academic or less than. And I wonder if, like, Sophie, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because as much as you want society to be more progressive and more inclusive, you are a product of being a 90s kid, and your education, your understanding of how the world works is that autism equals disability equals kind of a lower quality of life. And I think maybe we collectively, I mean, you're already doing this, we need to get our heads around the fact that, Cali can and will live to be a very happy, independent person. Like, yes, it's a known unknown, but like, don't we have to live in hope?
In hope and positivity. I was laughing before. I wasn't laughing because I have to always try and make like it lighthearted, but my parents have gone away for 2 weeks. They're on a cruise. Their babies are at home, carrying on with life, working, being parents. Am I going to go on a cruise with my husband, or is my baby girl always going to come with us? And you know what? If she does, then fine, but I'll have her. Will you have her? Auntie Talya will have her.
There you go.
Yeah.
I
just love that I've got a lot of family support. It's so important.
But I think it's always like, you've got to do, and I'm no therapist, obviously, but I think you've got to keep yourself in check and not catastrophize, because I guess you might be sat there thinking, I'm never going to go on a cruise with my husband. But there are so many reasons why you can go on a cruise with your husband.
Okay.
Like, there's always going to be people that will take care of her, and she might not need it.
You have to when I let them. That's the problem. And maybe that's something I need to work on, because I know because she's so obsessed with me, with mummy, and mummy always has to be there. As much as she loves her grandparents, if mummy's not there, she makes it really difficult for them.
Oh, is she quite a dependent?
She's Sophie understands her more than anyone. It's that, and I just think I'm her security blanket.
That's amazing.
I can't remember who I said it to, but it's almost like someone that needs a wheelchair doesn't have their wheelchair. Someone that's deaf that needs a hearing aid doesn't. Was the pediatrician said it to you? She said it to me. Pediatrician said it to me. If someone's blind and they don't have a walking stick, they can't walk down the road. They what's the word?
Rely.
They rely and depend on tools to keep them really content in themselves. I am Callie's tool. But I know that when I'm away from her and she's at nursery or at my mother-in-law's or my mum's house, she's fine. So what am I worrying about? Again, I'm talking to myself, but I'm telling you, what am I worrying about?
She's in good hands.
Was that your account or another kind of mummy blogger that I follow that was saying how kids do act differently in front of their parents? You know, I hear it all the time with, as you know, all my friends got kids, and like we always laugh about how they're so well behaved at nursery. They eat all their lunch at nursery, they sleep at nursery, and then when they get home, they're like absolute brats. And I think the content, they were basically saying how, because you're their safe space, they can play up. They will push boundaries when they're comfortable.
Agreed.
I don't know whose account it was, but I'll find it. So let's talk about, because there's two other things that I want to talk about mainly. One is going to be the kind of the diagnosis, and I'm assuming that's actually something that you get a lot of questions about. But I'm actually also interested in like you guys, like your day-to-day life, how it impacts you every day, what it's meant for your careers, what you've had to sort of give up. Has it changed like how you interact with friends and family, that sort of thing? And I don't really know where to start on that, but I guess I'll just go straight in and be like, how has it, if in any way, impacted you on a day-to-day basis?
I think that's the biggest impact it has, is like with a child with autism, you never know what you're going to get that day, that hour, that night. So making plans in advance, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn. You're speaking in term, but like going to parties, any kind of social arrangement where there's other people that you know or don't know, it's a huge amount of pressure when the whole room is filled with people's children who are behaving beautifully, or that's how it feels to you when your child isn't. And all you want is for them to just join in and be normal. And you feel like you stick out like a sore thumb. Especially, it probably doesn't help having the platform that we have, because you can't go anywhere without people knowing your day-to-day life. But that's why I've done it. What to give them to prep them, not to stare. Not to prep them for me to feel more at ease. Because people have to explain constantly. People know. We live in a bubble. Everyone knows when I go to a party. Not everyone, that sounds dramatic and ridiculous. A lot of people will know when we go to a party that Cali has autism. And I need everyone to know that, because as Talya said, the pressure and the dread that I face a week, 2 weeks beforehand, the morning I wake up, the drive to the party, at the party, and then we get home, is awful pressure for me. Because it's just sort of, she's a delight at parties. Sophie is the one that has the issue with parties because of PTSD.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is the dread?
When she was little, when she was younger and more difficult to understand, she wouldn't, I guess like parties are still difficult because she doesn't interact. She's not entertained by an entertainer the way other children.
Really?
She doesn't actually know. Do you remember Papalani? We've all had Papalani. That's why I'm giving an example. Papalani, come on. Of course you had Papalani at your parties. You did.
I remember.
But it's old school party entertainers that do the blues. And
I just remember Adamant.
Yeah, exactly that. Adamant is right in front of you. All the kids are hysterically laughing, so engaged. All the mums are in the background, gossiping, catching up with their friends. There's me chasing my child the whole time. Doesn't even know Adamant is in front of her, not even acknowledge that there's a party entertainer in the room, goes straight to the food because she's food obsessed, eats so much food. People think it's funny. It's not funny. It's an obsession. It's really horrible. And there's, as Talya said, there's no interaction with other kids, which for me is one of the most challenging and difficult things about having a child with autism. I'm a very sociable person. So is my husband. So are my family. And knowing that autism means that her social side will be hugely affected breaks and shatters my whole soul, because I just want her just to fit in. And she stands out. And it doesn't, and what's difficult is not difficult. Right now, being 3, nearly 4, and for the next couple of years, she's still a young girl, she's still a child, she's still a baby. If she does her quirks, if she does her funny things, it's funny and cute. What's it going to be like when she's older? That's my worry. But I know I can't think about the future. I have to take each day by day, and I can give my whole therapy prep myself. But you do think about that. We had an example the other day. We went out for Blake's birthday. We went to Pizza Express. She had a few friends there. All the girls went to another table, all the young girls, and played with some toys. Cali didn't go over there. My child is sitting next to me. She didn't even notice they were there. I did. Playing with her own, really happy in her own self. Me, shattered. Burst out crying, which I never do in public, but I saw it in action. I saw it close to home.
I feel like you saw the future.
I saw the future.
And that's what was hard, was that it was a gathering of like age 4 to 5 girls. And there were about 4 of them.
All talking, all laughing. And there's Cali like a mute playing with a little toy that she's so fixed on.
The only thing to remember with that is that at the moment, that's harder for you than it is for her, because she didn't know.
Was happy.
But that's actually harder. That's the hardest part, is that she's so in her own world that she wasn't even aware that they were leaving her out, even though they weren't intentionally. Was physically they were sat at a different table.
Yeah.
And why would a 4 or 5-year-old be like, oh God, Cali's on her own, let me tell her to come over?
No,
that's they're not going to
happen. But that is how you teach your children to adapt to the children that are around them. Because what did we do? We moved them all back onto the table. We sat Cali in the middle. We put the sticker book in front of her and we said, everybody play together. And they did. You know, like some people would be like, oh, she's happy, they're happy, leave them, don't get involved. No, like it's time to bring home that you have to adapt and learn from a young age to keep an eye on children.
Totally. But the point still is that you were more upset than Cali was.
Yeah.
So there's probably something in you carrying emotions for her.
And
that don't exist though. I'm not trying to sort of blow it away, because I know what you're getting at, and I can only imagine the fear and how scary that must be to think of a child potentially being isolated. But am I wrong in thinking that Cali isn't isolated because she's content in her, if she's fixated on a toy or a sticker book or whatever, like that's her thing?
Yeah, I understand that. She is content and she is in her own bubble. But what's so wonderful, and I always have to remind myself, is she is so loved. Not just loved, she is so loved by every child. I have random women that I've bumped into or met in the park messaging being like, my daughter has spoken about Cali the entire day and the entire night, and she won't, that's what she's talking about. We must arrange a play date. And then I'm like, play date, Cali's not going to want to play with your daughter, but yeah, sure, we can arrange a play date. I remember going to nursery, and the first time it was her third party, her third birthday party. And I went to nursery, I knocked on the door and I said, I really need to ask you a question. Cali obviously can't tell me who her friends are, but could you let me know who some of her friends are so I can invite them to her birthday party? And the teacher said to me, that's a really difficult question to ask me. And my whole heart just dropped. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, she is loved by absolutely everyone. I can't give you 5 names. You have to invite the whole class. And I was like, well, you were going to tell me the other way. And parents used to come up to me in the car park and be like, all night they were talking about Cali. Cali. And I was like, shame, they shouldn't talk about yours. But she is just, I don't know whether it's her character or her energy. I don't know what it is, but she is seriously so loved, which helps everything, doesn't it?
I got the sense that only now, I guess, we're half an hour into the conversation, are you talking about that bit? Because I get the sense that the overwhelming emotion is still kind of anger and kind of distress at kind of what might happen. But in the present, like she is, you're telling me she's loved, she's got friends, she's happy, she's content. Yeah, there's moments, lots of people have moments, and Callie's are worse.
Okay.
But if the present is anything to go by, then the future looks less bleak than what you initially painted it out to be at the beginning of this conversation.
Does it? We all know what schools are, how kids are, how they're treated. I mean, I am a typical girl who went to a mainstream, really good grammar school and got bullied the hell out of who I was as a person because people didn't like me. So in my head, if I had to leave my own school from nasty people, and I was a typical girl that really thrived and had a really good social life and was really popular and didn't look too shabby, you know, like I always liked my hair to look nice and things like that. What are these nasty kids going to be towards someone that's vulnerable? Are they going to accept her for who she is, or are they going to be horrible to her? So that's what hurts. I mean, listen, I am painting a really beautiful picture about her, and she is a beautiful girl, but I'm not on here to tell you that my life is absolutely shit and my relationship is on the line. And I mean, I can if you want me to. I'm painting a nice picture because I'm sharing awareness that even though they're different and it's challenging, they are wonderful human beings.
Absolutely.
But the unknown is scary.
Yeah.
Really, really scary for me, for all of us. We just take each day with her, and I think we finally have everyone in our family now have accepted who she is and how amazing she is. And we all just kind of want to just,
do you know what I think?
Bubble her up.
Obviously, we haven't talked about the beginning of Callie's journey. When talked more about current situation, but I think that Callie had a regression at 18 months. And I think that's probably traumatized you more than you realize, because she's very good at making herself known now, but that regression happened pretty much overnight. And the fear that could happen again at any point, which is unlikely, but when you have a child that you thought she was developing the way that she should have been, I didn't know any different. I didn't. But when that gets taken away from you with no warning whatsoever, that probably frightens you.
Yeah, because it could happen again. Yeah.
Well, I think that, yes, but I also think being a first-time mum, and I think this is something that I want other first-time mums to hear, you don't learn about motherhood at school. You fall pregnant, you give birth, and you deal with your child. You don't know. Yes, you have books and you can read books and you have health visitors and, oh, don't worry, everyone develops at different times and don't compare and da, da, da. That was the mindset I went with. And then at 9 months old, she hit every milestone. She was happy. She was laughing. She was crawling. She was standing up on her own. She loved TV. She loved toys. She loved reading. She could count to 3. We thought she was a genius. Well, she's a bloody genius. And then we went into lockdown and she missed so many milestones in my head because we were stuck in the flat and she couldn't go to social groups and nursery and see people, see family. That when we eventually realized there was something, the first time it ever hit me was when we came out of lockdown. We were allowed to go to family houses, came to my parents' house. And my dad started laughing, not in like a mean way, but he was like, it's so funny. I'm calling Callie's name and she's not answering my name. She's not answering. He said, watch, Callie. And she's playing with the toy kitchen. So I'm like, all right, she's busy. Like, I didn't have one inkling about anything. But I just remember it. So, okay, were you there?
How old was she at that age?
How old was she?
About 16 months. It was after.
So let's walk through that from the beginning then. So are we saying that for the first, I don't know, 16 months of her life, this kind of autism thing didn't enter your mind at all? Was it a fear?
Well, I always felt that something. I don't know what the correct term to use is, because I really don't want to. I know this is your story and our story, but don't want to offend anyone else listening that's having a similar journey, but I knew from the moment she was born, really, I was concerned from the moment she was born. Before Cali was born, I worked in a primary school for 8 years as a one-to-one support for a child that had additional needs. And it's always also been a huge personal interest of mine. Autism has, like, I've always been the one to watch all the movies and read about it. And I've always been interested in it. But yeah, I was concerned. I felt that from the moment she was born, she had a different cry. The only way I can describe it is that she sounded like she was in pain. And
Doesn't that make you sad?
So sad. So sad.
Is that a thing? Like, I didn't know that. I wasn't expecting you to say that.
I'm now talking to parents. I speak to a lot of parents with kids on the autism spectrum. And now when they look back at their children from a newborn age, it all makes sense. And I make sense to you, though. So going back to me, I had a perfect pregnancy health-wise. When I was 6 months pregnant, I had a lot of trauma that went on, which I won't really go into because it's not my place, but with my husband. Okay, that sounds awful. He did not cheat. He's not me. We are together. He had some issues of his own when it came to mental health, which really affected me and maybe the pregnancy. So anyway, the baby was fine throughout. My mental health wasn't. My husband's mental health wasn't. Cali in my tummy would disco dance all day and all night, would not sit still. Again, I'm not saying that my child disco danced, that if yours did the whole time means anything. She was on the go the whole time, and she still is nearly 4 years later. And then my birth was traumatic. I was in labor for 36 hours. I pushed for 5 hours. The brand new midwife told me she kept seeing the head. Her head was by my hip. So there was no head. So I don't know what she was seeing, but my whole body was being really, really traumatized. Is that even a word? But we can go with it.
Go with it. We know what you mean.
And it was a long, long-winded birth. Now, when I spoke to the doctor, pediatrician, when she diagnosed Cali, it's weird because they always ask about your pregnancies and always ask about your birth. And then I said, do you think with what went on at 6 months pregnant and the birth, it could have caused anything with Cali? And she said, I don't know. She didn't say no, and she definitely didn't say yes. Don't.
Well, they'll never be able to prove it anyway.
What I was just saying to Talya before is, even though two pediatricians have diagnosed Cali, it's just by their opinion. There's no blood test, there's no x-ray, there's nothing. It's purely opinion. So I'm not saying she hasn't, but it's what they go by from with the typical flags. So when I look back at that, maybe it had something to do with it. Talya always noticed her cry. I mean, it was excruciating. I happened to be training as a sleep consultant soon after she was born, and she never slept. She never settled. She never linked her sleep cycles. She would be awake for hours during the day as a newborn. It wasn't so much at night. She was quite settled at night, but during the day, it didn't. I used to take her and be like, right, enough. Like, I'm putting her down for a nap. And it was the arching and the writhing away from my body and fighting sleep and fighting. That was the only time she fought physical touch, really. She used to love a cuddle, but she loved to cuddle. From newborn to about 9 months, it was 11 months she didn't sleep. Yeah, well, yeah. I was always concerned, but it's very difficult to bring those concerns to life when you've got someone that's
so what did you do? Did you tell Ben?
No. Ben's very protective over Sophie and extremely protective over Cali. Like, he probably won't even listen to this podcast. Neither will Josh. He won't. He finds it very difficult. I didn't tell Ben. I used to discuss it with Sophie's mum, my mother-in-law, a lot, because I just found it too difficult she's the only one I spoke to about it, really. And at first she was quite, don't want to say defensive, but torn because it's her baby that we were talking about. But I think that deep down she was also always concerned too. And then we sort of tag teamed, and I think, was she the first person to say to you need to go and get her checked? I remember what happened. Sophie wanted me to sleep train Cali, and I said to my mother-in-law, I do not feel comfortable sleep training a baby that I believe is in pain. She must have some sort of reflux or something. Taken to a paediatrician. She wasn't answering to her name. This was about 9 months old, and she was hitting other milestones, crawling, babbling, saying, ducka, 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 da, 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 da. And that's when the journey began. She took her to the paediatrician. Even this conversation is giving me such PTSD. I'll say it. She took her to the paediatrician, and Cam and I kept saying to her, just get her ears checked. Maybe she can't hear. She's not answering to her name. Just get her ears checked. So she went to the paediatrician, who's a family friend, by the way. So it felt even more. It didn't feel more comfortable going to someone that I knew. It felt worse, but I thought it would make me feel better, but it didn't. And what did he say? He said, go away and come back. There's nothing wrong with her. She's a baby. Let's book her in for a hearing test anyway. There's nothing you can do if there's any problems anyway, which there won't be. Just go and come back. Is that what he said? Yeah.
And at this stage, Talya, was the kind of the ear test thing like a bit of a mask because you knew that there was nothing wrong with her hearing?
Behind it because I knew she could hear. Well, he also prescribed her lansoprazole, which is a really strong acid reflux medication. And I remember even the pharmacist called me and said, are you sure she should be on this amount? She was on morning and night, a really, really high dose. I was like, yes, it's all prescribed, give it. It didn't make a difference, did it? She was still up 8 times a night, arching from literally into a U with pain. But now I know it wasn't pain.
So
I don't know what it was.
Yeah, we don't know what it is. It's just she had a hyperactive mind that didn't want to sleep?
Yeah, it was her neurodivergency. It was just, she was not okay in her body. Just like, it was almost like something wanted to come out of her body. And she was a phenomenal sleeper from 0 to 4 months. And then something just awfully switched. Which I can understand why there's so much talk about the link between vaccines and stuff. Yeah. It's obviously, I don't believe that to be a problem, but that is when they have the vaccines, is at 1 year old, at 4 months old, at quite pivotal ages for autism regressions and things to happen. It just so happens to be a coincidence in time. Anyway, we went for the hearing test. It was lockdown, so I had to go on my own to central London, sit her down, do this whole hearing test. The 2 ladies were lovely. They were trying to keep her busy and putting these loud noises near her ear for her to turn to notice the noise. And she was turning to notice the noise, that it was, she could hear. And she had the glue ear test, which was a nightmare to get in her ear because obviously it's a sensory thing, putting something in a child's ear. And obviously these hearing test people don't know your background and why you're going for a hearing test. They just test you. So they went, brilliant news. Her hearing is perfect. And that was the moment that I think you realised. I can't even say it. She fell to the floor, and I ran upstairs to the doctor, our family friend, and I literally threw myself on the floor. I said, she's got it. And he said, just sit down and just calm yourself, and we're going to work on her, and we're going to work on her forever and ever. And that's when I knew. And I did 2 hearing tests. I was like, no, I want to go back and do it again because I was so in denial. Those couple of months was really hard because every day that went by, it became more obvious that Cali had autism, but Sophie's denial grew stronger and stronger. So it was actually very uncomfortable. Like I live next door to Sophie's parents, so I'm here a lot, and I would be in the kitchen with Sophie's mum and dad, and she would come in and say, she is absolutely fine. You are all delusional. I just called her name. She turned around like, you need to get it out of your heads now. You're being so negative about my baby. The words, she is absolutely fine, haunt me because I felt so guilty that I felt like I was putting out there this like awful negativity about her.
It made me like almost resent my family because I was like, what are they saying when I live with her? I know my baby and there's nothing wrong. And that's what,
like the denial was immense, and that was really sad to see because it was like I wanted to shake her and be like, wake up.
So coming back to like the facts then, so if you've got like a negative or like a positive outcome of the hearing test, as in she was positively her hearing is okay, how did you make the leap to autism? Like, did you have to like, what is that process? Is there even a way of doing it?
From then, the pediatrician said, we need to start early intervention, which is get her into a childminder, let her socialize with people, let her feel comfortable, let her feel so overwhelmed, and start speech and language therapy straight away. And that's what we did. And that's what we still do now. She goes to nursery 3.5 days a week, and she has speech therapy. And we're waiting for some other therapies. And
has that come at additional cost? Is there like financial support?
Everything is an additional cost. Everything. And it's so expensive. It's almost like I was just saying it before on my Instagram. We're going through her whole educational healthcare plan at the moment, which got rejected. So many people said to me, speak to this lawyer, speak to this person. It's £20,000 to speak to a lawyer to get an EHCP, which might not even get accepted.
Well, to get them to take them to tribunal, £1,000. Like
why was it rejected?
Not enough evidence from her setting at nursery. Wasn't enough backup evidence, which is a real shame. But I don't want to badmouth them because I absolutely love the nursery. They didn't know what they really needed to do. So unfortunately, they didn't have the support from their the council, like the education coordinator or whatever should have sat them down and said, this is what you need to do. Yeah.
This is what you need to prove. We need it by this date when it goes to panel so that we can prove that she needs the support at school. Sophie was not supported. They weren't supported. Therefore, Cali is not supported at school, which is devastating.
She's now going to a mainstream school in September with no support. I've heard this particular school that she's going for, which we fell in love with, is an amazing school and great with SEN. Although I called the Senko yesterday, you were here, weren't you? And I said to her, I just want to speak to you. I wonder if I can arrange a meeting. My daughter's starting your school. Unfortunately, she hasn't got her EHCP, it got rejected. Her response was, are you sure this is the right school for your daughter? I mean, well, hello. I said, well, where would you like my child to go? Because if you don't have an EHCP, you can't go to a specialist school. But mainstream schools also can't,
unless you pay.
Unless you pay. Everything's money. It's like, I think
that's why you're so angry.
This is why I'm so angry, because nothing's going my way. It's like, God forbid someone has cancer. They go to the doctor. They say, I've got a lump. They refer for an x-ray and whatever. You get diagnosed with cancer. You start chemo or radiotherapy. Please, God, you survive. You get treatment. All under the NHS.
Yeah.
Even about nothing going your way. It's about everything. It's about having a child with a disability, whatever that disability may be, is hard enough. But to have to fight for the support that they genuinely need and deserve to thrive is really sad.
It's a complete miscarriage of justice. You know, we're all taxpayers, and as taxpayers, we want nothing more than to see the right provisions in place for, all of us.
It's discrimination. Like neurotypical children can go to school for free and have an amazing education. So why can't neurodivergent children do the same?
Yeah, totally. It is discrimination.
Why for the support for them? Because
so what happens? Like what happens next? Then obviously she's going to mainstream school, but without the specialist plan in place, like is she left to fend for herself? Like is she going to get any?
Head said to me, and it really stuck by me because she's the deputy head of the school, but she's also a mum at the school, and she said, I need you to know, because I spoke to her afterwards. Every child that comes into our school, we get to learn them and know them individually, whether they are just shy. We know that Sarah is a shy girl. So when we do activities, Miss So-and-so, make sure Sarah's in because she's shy. We get to know your children. And one thing that we have got, which is lucky, is we've got a transition period happening. So we've got someone from the council going to visit Cali 6 times at her nursery now, write loads of reports about how she is and how she does things, and then we'll report it back to her new school. So there's something in place.
So the council could the council theoretically flag that actually maybe the rejection was the wrong outcome and they could reverse that?
No. I have to basically, the lady who rejected at EHCP told me not to bother reapplying. It will just get rejected again. Try again when she's at her mainstream school. But it takes at least 6 months to go through. So it won't start until she's 6 months in. She might get an EHCP in year 1. Otherwise, I know now she will not be able to go to a mainstream school for year 1 onwards without support. She does not sit still. She will not sit in front of a teacher and learn. No way. And that's what angers me, that if she just had that support from the beginning, they know what she's like and they know how she's going to thrive in a mainstream school. But as I said before, I need to take each day, see how it goes, and just genuinely hope for the best.
Yeah. That's all you can do, really. And I know that when we spoke, you said that it's impacted kind of your therapy work as well. I don't know if you wanted to touch on that.
I am a life coach therapist for primary school kids, the challenging kids, basically the undiagnosed kids, whether it's ADHD, dyslexia, autism, who are just the naughty ones that get sent out of class all day because the teachers cannot cope with them. And I had one kid that had to leave the class because he shouted out, "Willy bum bum." So I said to him, "Why did you say Willy bum bum?" He said, "Because I don't know how to do maths. And I know the teacher was going to come to me next because she was choosing everyone out of the class. So I thought if I just shout out something, then she's going to send me out and then I don't need to answer the question and embarrass myself." And from there, I thought I need to stop working with children. I need to stop seeing all these kids that are suffering that are undiagnosed because I can't digest how they act as people into my head, knowing that that might be the way that my child does. So I'm currently working with adults.
So we've come to the end. And one thing that, as you guys know, I ask everyone to do is write a letter to their younger selves. But I thought because you've already done that and it was so powerful last time, we'll spice things up a little bit. And this is a first. This is an extraordinary podcast first. To ask you to write, I've never done this bit before, but I asked you to write a letter to your kids, which I think will be really interesting and slightly powerful. So I'm a bit nervous as to what's going to come up. Have you decided who's going first?
I'll go first. You go first. Shall I read it?
Yeah, when you're ready.
A letter to my children. Life with you in it is just a complete blur of love. All the days merge into one and the years are flying by, but one thing is for certain. You bring us more happiness than we ever imagined possible. Nothing is more important to me than your health, safety and happiness. Live your life exactly how you want to and don't let anybody tell you how you should be. Respect others, defend yourselves, love hard and be kind. Listen to your gut. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. But most importantly, love yourself. That's gorgeous. Thanks. Quite similar to mine, actually, isn't it?
That's amazing.
To my wild and wonderful children, thank you for making me the person I am today. Sophie, firstly, I need to address that I have never, ever felt love like it until you both entered my world. You have both taught me so much in my life, in more ways than you'll ever know. Be proud of who you are, accept who you are. Remember, you have so much love and support around you. Whatever challenges we face, we will always face the challenges together. I'm so blessed to be your mummy. The world is a better place with you both in it. I need to get to the Youre. What's with me? I know what's wrong with me. I need to shed some tears. I've got to run because I'm 4 minutes late to pick up Blake from school and I'm going to be in trouble.
Okay. Thank you, Talya.
Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely loved it. It was very therapeutic.
Oh my God. You definitely got me going. Was that easy? Was that difficult?
It was really easy.
Really? Just like wrote it out?
Yeah, I literally did it in one go. I probably could have, without that, all right, Soph, I probably could have said it on the tip of my tongue, because that's generally how they make me feel. And
well, that's so amazing.
Challenges, I love them to madness.
Good. And just remember that as well. Listen, thank you so much for doing that. I think you're going to help a lot of people. It was really moving and really insightful. I think part of what you're doing that's so great is that you educate people. Like, we're all on this journey with you, and I think that is social media at its best. I think it gets, we slate it all the time. I do, but I think it's your story when done properly. I think it can really sort of move mountains, and both your kids are very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Have you as their mum and have Talya as their auntie?
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm very blessed. I'm very lucky. I really am.
All right. Well, thank you. And I will see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you as always for taking the time out of your day to watch or listen to this episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I did making it. And of course, a huge thanks goes out to Talya and Sophie for giving it their all, for being so brave and vulnerable in sharing their story. If you enjoyed it, then please leave a rating or a review from wherever you're listening from or watching from, for that matter. It really does help keep the podcast keep going and growing. And don't forget, if you really enjoyed it and want to contribute towards the very high costs and maintenance of this podcast, then please head over to the Buy Me a Coffee link, which is in my socials and in the show notes below. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and I will see you very soon.